Anyway, let's just jump into this. So it's Trap and Cure, and he opens pretty much the same as everyone else. So I went in and I just looked at how everyone's opening, the timing of their third, the timing of their double forge, the timing of their archives, and Trap starts the same as everyone else, but then he does a couple of things that are completely different from everyone else, and it pays off really heavily in this game. And it just feels to me that Trap is ahead of the meta, ahead of the pro meta, which is the one that counts in tournaments, right? So it's really cool looking at Trap, then looking at like Mana and Showtime and seeing what Trap is doing that's actually better than Mana and Showtime. And it's quite like objectively obvious what Trap's doing and why it's better. And it all fits in with what Terrans are doing. And Terrans also play very homogeneously. They have a few more options in terms of, am I going to open up with Hellions, 4 Hellions maybe, run that to the natural with a Reaper to Grenade or something? Am I going to do 4 Marines and 2 Hellions? Especially on this map, right? So it all starts fairly clean, fairly fair. Gateway Nexus and Cyber. Lots of players are going Cyber first on Ephemeron. I think because of the shorter rush distance, you're more inclined to try and deny the natural, and you're also more inclined to worry about the Reaper. But Gateway Nexus is perfectly fine to get your Adept out in time to deal with the Reaper. So I'll put this up here. That's something interesting as well. So everybody does a Gate Scout in PvT except for Trap. And on Ephemeron you can do this. You can't do this on longer rush distance maps, but you can do it on Ephemeron. And I think Trap knows this, and that's why he does it. So you notice he puts down the gateway after his Gateway Nexus, and he sends the probe across the map. There's not going to be a Reaper until 2 minutes, right? That's the general timestamp that people are using. So what happens is he runs it across the map, and he gets there at precisely 1:55, right? If he wants to go up the ramp, he can. He could go up here and get there for 1:55. The Reaper's not going to be coming out at that time, so he knows he's safe. He doesn't need to go up the ramp because he can see, as a good player, he knows command center here, you're going to be making a Reaper, and if not, I'll see that, and or I'll notice there's been no Reaper in my base. And of course we have an SCV scout from Cure, who could find this probe and help the Reaper kill it. So the probe needs to go and hide somewhere, and you can see this Reaper is going to go and look for this probe, or at least for a proxy pylon or something, because he knows that there's a probe hovering around here. Trap's going really far away, so if the Reaper wants to find this probe, he probably could, but he would lose his scouting window of time for the main. So it's like not worth it for the Terran to do this. In the meantime, we go Adept first, Adept into Sentry. Showtime does this every game as well. Sentry allowing for the hallucination that allows you to do some very nice, easy scouting on the Terran, and the Adept obviously just to kill the Reaper if he comes in. Eternal Empire has some good lib spots apparently. As I say, it'll take some practice, guys, before we see the true balance of things. Like certain things as well you just don't think about, like the distance between the third and the natural might be Protoss favored or Terran favored or whatever, right? Like for example, on Ephemeron, it's easy to drop because Terran wants you to build in a triangle like this. They don't want you to build in a line because that's harder to drop. So like you attack this space, you pick up and you drop here, you pick up and you drop here, and there's like ledge and ledge for the Protoss to get around. So that's why it seems good to drop on this map, as well as this huge dead space behind the natural where you can hide stuff all game. So you know, Ephemeron has a bunch of Terran favored things, as well as the tank location here, being able to siege up there, which again, I think actually Cure likes to do this. I do love Home Story Cup because of the sheer amount of replays. The fact that I could get like 10 replays all on Ephemeron or PvT with like Showtime playing 3 different times on Ephemeron is amazing. Like the fact that I can get these replays, especially so quickly after they play them. So something I missed, actually, I didn't show you guys, but it was quite clever from Trap, right? What he does at 2 minutes 30. Let's go back to 2 minutes 30. Hubsayer, if you're here by the way, Hub, I just want to point out how good Trap is at seeing what the opponent's doing with very little. So he's already seen and confirmed the expansion, pretty normal, and he does that off of a Nexus Scout, not a Gate Scout, although I guess it's pretty much the same thing. he just has to wait a bit longer because he puts a Nexus down. In any case, hides here until 2:30. Or was it 2:45? Okay, 2:40. And he comes in here at around 3 minutes 10, I think. Yeah, 3 minutes 10. And what does he see? He sees a Hellion. So he didn't need to send the Adept across the map to see this. And the Reaper is just chilling over here looking for stuff, right? So if you don't have this probe, it becomes scary because he doesn't even know that there is a Reaper and that he didn't skip the Reaper to make like a reactor to 2 Marines, right? But now he knows everything. He knows what's possible and what's not. He sees one Hellion, which is very indicative of like not a reactor on the factory. So he knows the reactor is on the barracks from seeing this one Hellion. And then of course he then goes and sees 2 Marines like this as well. So he has a pretty good idea what's going on, and he immediately walls off of the 3rd pylon, not off the 2nd pylon, with 2 gateways. And he's very safe against the pressure that's coming in. Trap does make a mistake in a second, which I was very surprised he would do. So what happens is the Reaper is obviously here to grenade stuff if there's like an obnoxious wall. But yeah, the Cure is pretty good here. He manages to focus the Sentry with the Reaper, get the Reaper out before it dies, so that regenerates everything quite easily and cheaply. And it looks like Trap shouldn't lose the Sentry now, but it's got 10 health left, and we're doing 14 damage to light units, so you know it's more than enough to do the 11 damage it needs to get through that Sentry. And he actually just loses the Sentry here, but he does get the Hallucination Scout off of it, and it does its main job of scouting stuff, and he doesn't lose any probes to this Hellion nonsense. But it was one Hellion, I do need to stress that, right? Like, strange that that gets a kill on the Sentry against the best PvT player in the world. Anyway, maybe Trap thought he'd thrown the Sentry a bit further up the ramp so that Hellion wouldn't have vision, because that would have made sense. If he'd thrown it up the ramp, the Hellion wouldn't be able to get there in time to kill the Sentry. Anyway, pay attention to this extremely fast Nexus. Am I still learning PvT? Of course, there's so much more to learn. This is just PvT on Ephemeron. I've got a very good idea about how to play this though. Looking at Mana, Showtime and Trap together, you get a really clear idea of what's strong and weak, and which mistakes are very common to do against these good players. So this Nexus is very early. It's not the earliest Nexus that there's been, but it's one of them. Actually, let me check. I have it all written down. Yeah, okay, so Trap versus Clem. So this game he puts it down at 413. Against Clem, he puts it down at 350. He feels absolutely no pressure from Clem because of the Widowmine drop. And he gets away with it because the Widowmine drop comes in later, and he takes 2 probes in damage from it. So he manages to get away with this really early Nexus, manages to deflect the first Widowmine drop. It's just the second Widowmine drop comes in and just like kills the entire mineral line for free. Like, you lose 0 resources to kill 11 probes because he gets out with the medevac after. So the damage is insane. Got to nip to the shop. Alright, Snafu, I may not be here when you get back because, as I say, this is going to be a really short stream. I've got to go in like 10 minutes. If I even have 10 minutes. Emily will let me know. Anyway, so we have a very quick third from both players. You can see Cure is earlier than Trap. So the Terran's being greedy. He's not being aggressive or 2-base all any at all. Trap gets Blink finished up, so he goes up across the map. You know, if the Terran pushes out this way, he can spot it, and if he pushes out this way with the Observer, he'll spot that as well. And on top of that, he can blink into the main if he thinks that that's a good idea. But he'll see that there's tanks and Marines and things, and he'll decide against that. See, Templar Archives is the follow-up splash damage here, and this is something that's really important. So in 1, 2, 3, I think 5 of the 6 games, I think this must be the only one. Oh no, okay, yeah, okay, so Trap is the only player to do this. So everyone else does a double forge at around 4 minutes 40, 4 minutes 50, 5 minutes at the latest if you've taken some early damage or from the harass or whatever, right? But that's a double forge. So Showtime likes his double forge, and Mana likes his double forge, and everyone likes their double forge except for Trap, who does a single forge at 4 minutes 50, and instead of getting and spending gas on the other upgrade, he gets his Templar Archives like a full 1.5 to 2 minutes faster than Showtime would. And what that means is Trap makes sure that he has Storm finished by the 7 minutes mark, and the 7 minutes mark is the time, from that time onwards, the time that Terran starts putting on pressure on the Protoss and says, hey, if you've gone double forge, you've got no splash for this time, and I've got a good timing window to just kill you. And that's exactly what happens against Showtime, who manages to die from extremely far ahead against Euthermal. Showtime's splash wasn't finished, his storm wasn't finished, he got hit by a Dorito cannon, and he kind of just really poorly handled the push, because he was warping in front of all of the Marines who were getting damage, and then he was like running back and forth with the Zealots and just bleeding out Zealots. So he managed to lose like 6,000 resources in under a minute, and Euthermal lost 3,000 resources in that minute. So a 2-to-1 trade was able to just completely compensate Euthermal for the fact that he was on much fewer workers. So yeah, the important thing to notice here is that we have this storm now, and he's got these 3 HTs ready, knowing that there's going to be some kind of push. You can just bank on it that the Terran will push at 7 minutes till 7 minutes 50, or even 8 minutes at the latest. But generally 7:50 is the latest that it's going to come in. Look at this. Immediately Trap, again knowing that this is going to happen, he didn't really scout for anything. Like, he knows there's a third, he knows that there's bio units, he knows that there's a tech lab factory. Like, these are all things you can rely on, or now there's a reactor, but he knows that there's like 1 tank or 2 tanks, and then he's got a third, a bunch of workers. The economy's looking great for Terran, by the way. Terran's got 1 more worker and also 3 orbitals, so he's ahead in mineral income. And also he'll be taking his gases. So Terran's ahead in economy right now, but Trap just knows he needs to be able to deal with this pressure, and if he can deal with this pressure, then late game is Protosses, and he's going to have a great time. Even though Trap is 1 upgrade down from where everybody else would be in this situation, because they would have gone double forge, and they'll have that +1 as well. Yeah, okay. So he comes in here with his Zealot Harass as the Terran pushes out, and he also has Storm ready for when this push comes in. And he just completely eviscerates this pressure. Obviously he's got 3 storms, gets in an Archon out of it as well, so he's not even losing the HT after storms. And then he's got Blink. I didn't know this, but you can actually blink on top of this rock and quite easily still have like 6 Stalkers shooting the tank. So from here, it's Trap's game, right? Trap is feeling good. He's got his splash up, and the opponent doesn't have a counter to that splash. And then, of course, if you want to, you can go into another type of splash, and then Terran needs to counter 2 types of splash very quickly. And you can see the armory coming down as well. So like, the upgrades weren't too great for Cure either. So the fact that we're only on +1 armor isn't a big deal, because he's only on +1 anyway. But yeah, like Cure has nothing against Storm right now other than godlike splits. Nice little Zealot run bys all the time from Trap. Only 3 Zealots, but with this new 4.72 movement speed and faster charge in, it's pretty effective. And this happens in so many games on Ephemeron. The 4th gets denied, and then about 9 minutes it gets rebuilt. But that happens so often that if I were Trap or Showtime, I would say I'm just going to wait until 9 minutes to build this Nexus, because the Terran, again, I think Cure just knows this 4th is going to come down about 8:30. I'm going to be there with some bio units and deny your 4th, because it happens all the time. Alright, oh, he's here. Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to show that the strength of this is just going for 1 Forge and Templar Archives, and that I think this is just better than double Forge on maps like this, where the 7-minute pressure comes in so hard. And that way you don't end up doing what Showtime did, which is actually just dying to a 2-base all-in with a fake 3rd. Because Showtime just didn't have splash in time. Also, the Dorito cannon to the face may have made it. But yeah, that's actually it for now, guys. As I said, I need to go to somebody's birthday, so I've got somewhere to be. I just wanted to cast at least this up to this point, because the win from this position is really easy after this, and the pressure from Terran is pretty much always this timing and always this kind of push. So I just wanted to get this out there. I'm going to upload it to YouTube and look at it again myself to try and emulate this on the ladder. Anyway, I'll see you all in the evening when I stream again. But for now, it's going to be that scam stream, scam life, and we can host up all rock in the meantime.